Democracy is at stake. That's something that we've been hearing time and time again. But what does that really mean? Today on the record, I'm joined by Reverend Al Sharpton. He's a civil rights activist and also president and founder of National Action Network. Thank you so much for joining me today, Rev.
Thank you. Glad to be with you, Ebony.
I want to start this conversation before we even go further into democracy with words from Frederick Douglass's famous speech on July 4th. And in it, he says, "This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice, I must mourn." He was talking about the horrors of slavery, but it's been 246 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And I might add that America is in mourning. We just seen, even over the holiday weekend, the murder of 7 dead in Highland Park in Illinois. It's the 319th mass shooting this year. Also dealing with the heartache from 25-year-old Jalen Walker, over 60 bullets gunned down by police as he ran away. I'm still mourning Buffalo, Rev. When you hear those words that America's in mourning, when we look at this democracy, what comes to mind?
What comes to mind is that we must remember every 4th of July that when they commemorate what they signed in 1776, we had already been here since 1619, and we had been enslaved over 150 years before the Declaration of Independence, and we were not included in the Declaration of Independence or in the Constitution. Here we are, some almost 300 years later, and we're still not equally included. We still are doubly unemployed. We still have the worst health care, live in health deserts, as the COVID-19 pandemic showed us, still are in situations where we get the least income, as well as the least business loan. So when Frederick Douglass stated that it is not a celebration for me, he was talking about a situation that is still true, because we're not equal. We are better than we were, but we're not equal to everyone else. So what would we be lighting fireworks for? To celebrate 10 people in a supermarket in Buffalo shot down because of the color of their skin? To talk about on the very weekend that you see a young white man get on an elevated place and shoot down at a parade, and he shoots 70 rounds of bullets in a grotesque, despicable act of terrorism. But at the same time, over in Ohio, police almost put that amount of bullets in one black body. He shot 70 times at a whole crowd, wounded 38 and killed 7. These police had one victim and put 60 bullets in him and shot at him over 90 times. So this is not our 4th of July. That's what I think about.
And in Highland, the suspect lived to tell the story, much like Dylan Roof lived to tell the story.
Not only lived to tell the story, he was arrested with courtesy. They claim that Jalen shot at them and they riddled him with 60 bullets. This young man, they knew killed people, and they treated him like he was getting a ride in a chauffeured limousine.
Rev, when we talk about democracy at stake, it's almost like a term that we kind of throw around. You know, democracy in its simplest form, run by the majority of people, electing officials that are to represent them in free and fair elections. But we're seeing, even with the unfolding of the January 6th hearings, right? There's another one scheduled actually on the 12th of this month, and the overturning of trying to overturn the 2020 election by former President Donald Trump. When you hear democracy is at stake, what is your reaction to that?
When you hear the fact that there's clear evidence that the attempt on January 6th was to stop the certifying of the election. That the date was not a date like when I call a rally or march in Washington. it was that specific date because it was the date they were going to certify the election. When they went to stop the certification of the election, it was to really undermine what the voters had decided. That means there is no democracy. It is ruled by a mob. And I think that when we say democracy is at stake, that is exactly right. Anytime you can have a clear victory that is not going to be certified and in fact undermined, and the loser convinces a large part of the country they were robbed, you're on the tip of democracy no longer matters.
Do you think when voters go to the polls in the elections, November elections, that this will be one of the issues that goes in with them? This, and also when we look at issues like Roe v. Wade, what do you think will be top of mind?
That's where I think activism comes in. It will be top of the mind if those activists are like me, are out there giving the message and reminding it and organizing. You cannot get angry if the right wing out organizes them. They went from the John Birch Society to the birther movement, to the Tea Party, to the Trumpers. They never stopped. And we keep going forward and stopping, going forward and stopping. We need to continue right along with our messaging, organizing our people from the ground. People will not just automatically get the message. People in our communities are trying to survive. You got to stay on them, and you got to keep pumping it. And if you do, that will be on their minds when they go to vote.
No, also to that point is also stay on elected officials. Even within the Democratic Party, we know that King said the greatest stumbling block in the stride towards freedom wasn't the KKK, but it was also moderates, white moderates, who wanted peace, but really they wanted silence. Who say, I agree with you, but not your methods of doing things. So there's a part even within party leaders to stand up.
Now, I think it's even more important we stay on party leaders, because the only reason they're party leaders is because of us. So we have the right to demand and the right to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do. We did not put them there for their resumes to look impressive. We put them there to represent us. We have the right to demand service from them. So I think it's even more important to stay on.
Two more things before you go. I want to touch on the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and you've been extremely outspoken with that landmark ruling, 50 years overturned. And when we're talking about democracy, how much is the Supreme Court at fault in this putting democracy at stake? We have the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Right after that, we also saw the striking down of New York's gun law on concealed weapons, and then also limiting EPA's ability to restrict plant emissions. When we talk about life, this conversation has to be a whole of life conversation.
I think that when we talk about Roe versus Wade, not only are they putting women back in a position where they have no decision over their own body, they have done a very dangerous thing for all Black people, women and men. They're now saying that it is up to the state to decide whether they have abortion or not, which is back to a state-by-state model, which is states' rights. That was the Confederate model. So we fought out of slavery. One of the reasons you have Juneteenth is because the state of Texas didn't tell their slaves they were free until the Union Army came in and told them they were free and enforced it. That's why you want federal law. That's why the Civil Rights Act of 64 federal made all states have to be segregated and deal with public accommodation. 65 Voting Rights Act, same thing. So I think that once you let women's rights to choose become state model, next will be voting rights, and then will be LGBTQ rights, and then will be affirmative action. Once you go back in the states' rights, you're going back into Confederacy. And that is why we've got to fight for everybody's right, but there's no right. We are now looking at, I remember when I was growing up, Ebony, my parents were from the South. I was born and raised in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. They said they would have to find which state when they were driving, but it was before a lot of blacks were flying, that they could sleep in a hotel, or which state they could eat at restaurants when they would drive north. So that was Jim Crow. We're going from Jim Crow to Jane Crow now. You got to find what state you get an abortion. From Jim Crow to Jane Crow. We've got to stop.
It is, when you say that and you're talking about the Green Book, it's almost like we need a Green Book to map out this life. I want to end on Brittany Griner. You recently spoke with her wife, Sherelle, on your show, Keeping It Real with Al Sharpton, and she was outraged and frustrated, as so many are. She's being detained in Russia for allegedly smuggling in drugs, and she's asking for the president to say something. There have been many calls and people leaning in to say, we need you to do more. The president did say that he got her letter where Griner said that she was terrified, that she felt like she was going to be in there forever, even when we talk about democracy as it relates to this Griner situation. What is it that I know that you are doing a lot also on this behalf to help get the word out and show Americans how this is connected also to the whole picture? What is it you want people to know in this Griner situation?
If this young woman can be apprehended and held and put on trial in a court that 99% of the people that go before it is convicted because there is no real justice there. And she is a superstar in women's basketball. And she's been used as a pawn by Putin with his fight with the United States. Don't forget, she was arrested 2 weeks before they invaded Ukraine. So they knew then they were going after Ukraine. And this is a bargaining chip with Biden, which is why it was so important Biden to speak up on our behalf, which he finally did. I'd offered to go over there and still do a clergy visit, but more importantly, to get her out of there. And whatever we need to do, I'm glad to see the president finally called, but I wish he had done it earlier. And I wish he'd been clear. We are not going to sit by and watch this young woman become a bargaining chip. They went and made an exchange for a former Marine named Reed.
Trevor Reed.
Exchanged Reed for a prisoner that the United States had of Russian descent. And Brittany was there in jail. They could have included her in that trade. That's why I got very vocal about it. And that's why I worked with Sherelle to try to keep focus on it, and I will continue.
Reverend Sharpton, thank you so much for coming on the record. Can't wait to get you back on. Thank you for your wisdom and for the work that you are doing on the ground.
Thank you, Ebony, and glad to be with you.
Absolutely.
All right.